Alright, what's going on, guys? Today I'm gonna finally explain the wiring that's been done on this bike. I know it took a while for me to do this wiring video, but I wanted to make sure everything on my bike was correct. I didn't want to talk about wiring on my bike if it was incorrect. So here is my attempt to explaining the wiring that's been done to the bike. As you can probably tell by just looking at it, there is not much that I have taken from the old wiring harness. Pretty much everything you see here is brand new wiring with brand new connectors and fittings. So I guess the easiest way to start is by talking about the regulator, voltage regulator, and the rectifier that's located under the bike. On these CB550s, the voltage regulator and the rectifier is installed in the single unit. This is the one I have replaced. This is not the stock part. It's built by Rick's Motorsports. This is basically a reconditioned, refurbished version of the stock voltage regulator rectifier that comes on CB550. The wiring for this is still gonna be same as the stock wiring. So you have 3 yellows, white, green, red, and black. These yellows and white and green is basically going to be the same fitment as your stock CB550 wiring. So all you want to do is just hook these up as it is. So here's a better view at it. You got the 3 yellows, 1 white, 1 green coming out of back left part of the bike. You just want to simply tap these into the voltage regulator and you're gonna be left with black and red wire. There's 2 wires running up into the bike, and these are the blue and black wire you see right here, and these 2 wires will go directly into your coils. One on the right side, this blue, another one on the left side, black. Here's the CB550 wiring diagram. As you can see, rectifier and voltage regulator here is attached directly into the alternator. So you just hit the left white, left yellow with the left yellow, middle yellow, right yellow, so on, green, green. So it's pretty easy. So Rick's Motorsport here, same thing. Yellow, green, red is all the same. Black is the sensor feed wire. So this is exactly the wire you want to connect into your ignition. And the green will be to the green field coil wire, and then white is going to be towards your white coil. And these 2, as you can see here, is simply tied into the system. So you see, that's why you see the 3 yellows and green and white. So just tie that in. That's super easy, super simple. All the CB550s are gonna have this wiring. So I would start from here if I were you. So the red here is gonna go directly to your battery, and black is gonna go directly to your ignition system. Let's talk about this battery here. So battery is back here of the bike. Negative terminal, of course, is grounded to the chassis. If you have the bike powder coated like mine, just make sure you scrape off the powder coat so you have metal to metal contact, so it's grounded. So that's ground, battery ground. Battery power is carried over into my ignition key system, like that, carried over and comes out into the fuse. I have a, I guess, 30 amp fuse in here, so if anything happens to the bike, this fuse will trip, so I don't damage any electronics. But this bike doesn't have much electronics anyway, so that's okay. But this is basically the brain of the power on the bike. This is essentially what gets power first when I turn on the bike. And so let's see, 1 wire is going directly into the tail light. So my tail light's gonna be always on, no matter if headlight's on or off. It's just constant on. And speaking of tail light, I have the tail light ground hooked up to the battery ground as well, to the chassis. And this is the sensor trigger switch. This is gonna get some current through it if I hit the front brake or the back brake. So this here is tied into the back brake, which is right here. When this cable gets pulled on, this is a 2-wire switch. If it gets pulled on, current goes through it, allowing voltage to run through this system. So once you hit the brake pedal, the light will run through and trigger this center red wire. And same thing with the front brake cable. There's two wires going into this brake cable. This black here and another black here. One of the black cables is connected to the ignition system, so it gets power when the bike is turned on, and another cable of course gets tied into this tail light piece. So whether I hit the front brake or rear brake, it applies additional power into this wire and it creates the brake light. Another wire that comes out of here is going directly into the front headlight system. So up here I have headlight switch, low, high, and headlight off. Essentially what you got is multiple cables coming out of headlight. In my case it's green, white, blue. One of these is power, one of these is low beam, one of these is high beam. Super simple. You just hook these up into the switch and power that up with this red cable. Okay, and actually green, so green here is the ground cable. It's grounded right here to the chassis where the coil is. Okay, and then the blue and white is both powered, but the red is what powers these cables up. So red cable goes into the switch, and then this switch action will output different voltages to blue and white, and that triggers the headlight. On my bike I don't have turning signals, so that's gone. Let's see, so ignition here, this is just on off switch again. That cuts out power to these coils if it's off, so it shuts off the bike, and it wouldn't start the bike if it's in off position as well. Alright, so the bike is kick started, so it does not have a starter, electric start. So I don't have anything in terms of this button right here. This is not hooked up, it's unused. Other than that, let's see, the coils are again going into these two cables is fed right into the coils, one left, one right. Make sure these are grounded to the ground. What else do I have going on here? I don't know. I think that's about it. Yeah, so of course spark plugs coming out of coils. Make sure you don't get these mixed up in order. There's no turning signals. There's no horn. There's no gauges whatsoever also. So this is pretty much as simple as you can get on these bikes. I hope that cleared things up. I know it's a little confusing at times, but I try my best to kind of explain what's going on here. So there are a few diagrams online, like you can see here. I'm gonna try to pause the video here so you can kind of screen capture it or save this video so you can see later for yourself. But these are just diagrams I picked up online that people have created depending on what kind of system you got going on. So this pretty much explains exactly what's going on with my bike. I got the voltage regulator, rectifier, I got the alternator. You know, these are the yellow, white, green wires. That's not going to change on any kind of bike you have. Battery ground, battery power. Power goes to the ignition switch and it powers up the coils left and right. And between here is there's ignition switch. Ignition key, I guess, is same thing as ignition switch in this case. And of course the power, same power for the coils. It's powering up the headlight and the tail light, front and back, brakes. So this is pretty much what my bike looks like. So I know it's kind of confusing at first because CB550's original OEM wiring looks something like this. So what I would do if I were you is to just tear everything out and start from scratch, because what I tried to do was try to recreate and simplify this into this, but that would just turn into a huge mess, and all these connectors are, you know, from the 70s, so it was old, it was corroding, it was tearing apart. So I just decided to tear everything out and recreate everything from scratch. I trust, and trust me when I say this, but it's way easier to recreate it from scratch than it is to try to figure out what's going on with this. All right, so let me know if you have any questions. I'll try to help out as much as possible. I know wiring is kind of confusing at first, but take your time. Create a diagram like this, figure out what systems you need, figure out what you don't need, and go from there. All right. One thing to know, I did heat shrink all the connections. I soldered them, wrapped them, heat shrink them. And next up, I'm gonna be going around with electrical tape and zip tying it in place so it doesn't vibrate and hit things and melt as I ride the bike. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next build video.